Bootcamp. My name is Luc Vermaas and together with Gert Zweedijk, we ensure that you stay informed of the latest developments in the field of business analysis. We combine different theoretical approaches with our extensive practical experience from the field so that you immediately leave our sessions with tangible tips and ideas to put in practice in your daily work. Have fun watching, and if you want to stay informed in our latest videos, follow us on YouTube. Today is mostly about an introduction about why we actually started this, and at the same time also give our view on what we think business analysis is nowadays. But before we jump into that, I think it's also good to give a little bit of background on how our brand, the BA Bootcamp brand, actually derived in the last few. I think, when did we have contact the first time, Gert? I think it was maybe end of 2020.
I think a little bit earlier. I think it will be. It was summer last year, around summer last year. We met each other. Luc read my book. I wrote a book on business analysis. He contacted me and he said he had plans for developing a new training on BABOK, which is part of the IIBA, as we will tell you later. And after a couple of meetings, we agreed that our subject should be broader than just BABOK. Because what's so remarkable about BA is that the discipline is so broad. It has many elements, and this led to the idea of the organization of an online series about all the dots which exist in today's businesses. I'll tell you more about this later. So I think BA Bootcamp is about connecting dots. The dots are all the subjects that exist in the organizations these days. And there's many specialties, and we think BA is about connecting all these specialties and becoming one consistent whole as a company.
And that's what we try to represent also in, what we call our logo. So what you see is basically the BA in the center of a organization, but it often also looks like a maze. And yeah, as a BA, you have to sometimes run through that maze to get all those dots connected, which is not I would say, linear process, right? You have to go back and forth, running in circles, finding other routes. And that's, basically also a little bit about the story behind our logo that exactly. That we have created on this.
And it certainly has also the agile circles, the iterations inside.
Yeah, definitely. But that's how we came up with the idea. But in the end, of course, we have also a goal. What we want to achieve with why we actually started this initiative.
Exactly.
And basically the common thing that Gert and I both shared was actually our enthusiasm about business analysis. We had many calls in the meanwhile, and often they ran out of time because we were just discussing about all the many topics that are that can be touched when talking about business analysis. So basically, it's also a big part of us that wanted to share this motivation with a broader audience. So that's the key of why we do this. So everybody can join in, learn. You can either bring information, you can get information. So it's for business analysts, but also with business analysts. And we hope to also activate and unleash the inner business analyst in everyone, because we clearly believe that today you don't have to be a business analyst as a title to be a business analyst. Everyone is a business analyst already if you improve a tiny piece of the work or the organization you work for. And at the same time, I think also what we want to try is where we see a lot of other, similar initiatives talk a lot about the theory, is really we want to look at the practicality of business analysis, where we want to focus on how can we bring theory with practical stories, and that's we will touch upon that later when we touch on our the backgrounds of both me and Gert. We're really with our feet down in the mud in the field. It's not that we only tell nice theoretical stories. No, we actually do the work day in, day out, and we want to share the challenges. We want to let you learn from our mistakes, but also maybe people are open to share their successes and failures. So, because in the end, I think that is what business analysis is about. It's not a linear, like step-by-step templated process where you go through and you have a successful outcome. It is iteratively, it is, you will become dirty, you will get into escalations, you will get, you will probably do wrong things in the meanwhile, but that is exactly the moment where you learn. So
everybody's on their own journey. So that's what I always say. I have a BA journey. So during my job, I have a lot of experiences, and like everybody does, and these experiences are may be very different. So it's always nice to share everybody's experience, and we can use these sessions for that.
Yeah.
So everybody's still learning.
Definitely.
This is, I think that's also important. This is a discipline which is pretty new, actually. Business analysis, I think, started with system analysis and has become broader and broader. So that has more elements like business process management to it, like, for instance, business architecture, agile, of course. All these elements are being combined into this discipline that's called business analysis. So everybody has his own experience also.
Yeah. So that's a bit about why we want to do this, and hopefully it inspires many of you and other people that will listen in the future to spread the word, and also provide us with feedback if we have if there are certain topics where you want to learn more about, then we can see and arrange if we can get in specialists from other areas and domains, because of course Gert and I also don't know the whole world, but at least bring that expertise together. Maybe shortly introduce ourselves and why you should actually listen to our stories, or why they are relevant. So a bit of background. So maybe Gert, can you, for the people who don't know you yet, give a quick introduction?
Sure. Gert Zweedijk. I'm an analyst, as you may not be surprised of. I started in the 90s as a programmer, and later became a designer and analyst. I worked for a dozen companies like the Greenery, the Central Bureau for Statistics, Ministry of Education, ISIS, when it was part of Schouten and Nelissen Group, to name just a few. At the moment, I'm an analyst. I'm a Scrum Master and Agile Coach at the Ministry of Justice. And beside that job, I train people in several BA topics. I'm CBAP certified, CBAP and AAC, and AAC stands for Agile Analyst certification. And I have a Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master degree. So that's basically what I do. I combine project work with training work and coaching work. And I think that's what makes, I think I have that positive about me is that I combine theory and practice. So I can use the theory from trainings into practice, and I use practice examples in the training I give to people. So that's about it, I think. I wrote a book on business analysis 2 years ago. So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Luke.
Yeah, then me, I would say we made a joke about it earlier on, that it's like young and old, but then old is not the right word, right? It's young and experienced. At the same time, also I think having a difference between us in we talked about it, the generalist and more specialist. So my background is really derived from being a Salesforce consultant, so I have a specific specialty in Salesforce CRM. But I'm now combining that with more generalist capabilities of business analysis. So my journey in that sense started a little bit differently, where I started on the system side, and then I moved my way more towards the business side. So going from IT to the business side, and now really found my, well, let's call it sweet spot, to bring those two often separate organizations together. And then I focus mainly on digital transformation projects and BPM. And that's why I'm now trying to also certify myself. So I recently started a year ago also following the IIBA training courses. So I now have my first certificate, followed also the OMG group for business process management, and really combining those worlds together, and yeah, helping organizations moving along their digital transformation. At the same time, I'm now working for, I'm a freelancer, so I work for Leaseplan at the moment, being a interim process manager, helping to transform their sales process. So a very exciting company to work for. In the past, I have been, the honor, I would say, to work for many great Dutch companies like KLM, ASML, Picnic, Rituals, and now I can also add Leaseplan to that list. So yeah, the learnings I get from those companies, it's the reason why I also want to share this with a broader audience. So that's a bit about us, but that's enough about us. Now let's talk about the topic we all want to talk about, and that is business analysis. Oh yeah, maybe just some general things. If anybody weren't aware yet, we really like to get some interaction. So, don't wait until we are to the finish line with slides, because the slides for us are just a way to get the conversation going. But in the end, it's ideally an interactive conversation. So if there are any questions or any things that you feel you could add to the topic we're discussing, then feel free to unmute. If possible, turn on the camera. But if you don't like to be recorded with your face on camera, then we of course understand if you will close down your video. At the same time, when we will publish content, we will always mask and anonymize people. So don't worry about that part. And now then to the final topic we all want to talk about. Business analysis, but actually why, I think maybe starting with the why, and telling that from my personal experience, I see more and more full-time business analyst jobs coming online. I think if you compare the Monster board or the resume job vacancy sites from 10 years ago to today, and you see really an increase in the amount of business analyst roles. And I think the reason for that is that not so much because we are now changing more than we did, because there was always change. If we look at all the industrial revolutions, I mean, change was a constant or is a constant. But I think what has now become more important is the fact that time is a hell of a variable in today's technological developments, where we now as organizations need to speed up the effort. What we normally did in, maybe to take an example, I like because it's a quite hot topic, it's the 5G technology. If you look at how long it took from actually coming from nothing to 1G, it took almost 30 years. Going from 4G to 5G, it was only 7 years. So you see that and that is driven a lot by the technological changes, but also nowadays you see a lot of things in politics, ecological change, but everything has to become faster. We have to adjust companies faster to our surroundings. And that is why I think business analysis, and therefore also the full-time job business analyst, because basically companies now understand that we need these people full-time looking at the surroundings and doing the analysis to improve and to make us aware of the change that is happening and how we need to adapt. So that is how I look at it today. Maybe Gert, you have some nice examples on also other industries.
In the past, companies used to be in the Fortune 500 for 75 years, and that has reduced to 15 and even becoming less. So big companies in the Fortune 500 just stay there for a couple of years. And that is, I think, a big signal that things are changing more and more rapidly, even for big companies. And you see a picture here of Tesla. Tesla is, of course, one of the. I'll just admit somebody else who is a little bit late. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning.
Nice to have you in the group. Tesla is a disruptive company because it comes with new technology, and it even has made a paradigm shift in automotive industry because of new technology, because of electric motors in combination with batteries, and a lot of automotive industries are now seeing that this will be the new normal. Like Volkswagen has a new mission, a new strategy for building around electric vehicles. I think you may have a debate about why Tesla has done this. You can say, well, it's about climate change. Elon Musk wants to reduce the CO2. I don't think that could be. I don't know. It's also about money, I think. But I believe the world is changing. The world is the climate change is there. So that means companies need to change. KLM is one of these companies. Farmers are companies that need to change as well to reduce the nitrogen and also the CO2 emissions. So the change isn't optional anymore. Everybody needs to change all the time. So change has become the new normal. The company I work for at the moment is in transition. I think it's a hierarchical organization that's changing now to a more customer-oriented organization. And I think the organization will be more organized in customer groups. So the customer is, of course, centralized, and we need to organize all the teams around these customers. But that means a lot. That means you need to get rid of the old hierarchical organizational structures. But then there's also culture. So actually, we are at the moment we are part of the dienstjustitiële inrichtingen, which is the prisoners organization, which the organization that does things to make sure all prisoners stay in healthy and are being looked at. But now our organization is put under Ministry of Justice. So that means a lot to this organization. So our organization is in transition, and I think that's a great moment to learn a lot and hopefully do something for the company to make sure it will work.
But behind all of those great big companies and the disruptions, we need people, right? We need critical people, and that's why we want to have the business analysts or the people who just think outside of the box or think differently. And just to come back to the saying, okay, you don't have to be a formal business analyst in your title to help improve. Anybody who is working in the field or in headquarters or in whatever role, they can look at their own work, look at their team's work, and see how can we help make.
If I
Okay.
may react to this, Luke,
Yeah.
if I see myself as an analyst, and what's so typical about an analyst is that that's a critical person who looks at an organization with one eye, and one eye is as it is. What's the organization look like at the moment? And with the other eye, I look at the organization how it could be. So the difference between these two eyes, you have two views. What do you see at the moment? And what is the to be? What could be the to be situation? And I think that will that helps you to to improve the organization you work for. So I think BAs, at least that's what I think, are people who are very critical and step into the office every day with the mindset to improve the organization they work for a little bit more. So every day you have the intention to improve. I think that's the bottom line. That's what it's all about. Improvement, helping the organization get better.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I feel that often people had, and then you get end up in discussions. Yes, but I'm not on the level that I can drive change, or I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't have the power to because that's people often think too big. They want to.
yeah,
They think, oh, I also have to think about the new Tesla or the next
mm,
6G antennas or what. But it's
yeah,
not about that, right? Those are always used, and we are doing that as well as examples how disruption suddenly pops up. But that did
yeah,
started somewhere with maybe one or two persons that had a small idea.
yeah,
But also, I mean, looking at my own examples from when I started working after I graduated, I started as a service agent at KLM. And I saw that we took a hell of a lot of time to onboard new people. And yes, there was a lot of information, but it was not structured. And I think we can really halve the time to onboard a new employee. I took
yeah,
on that challenge. I saw the opportunity. That's first. You have to see the opportunity and then take on the challenge. So I put in a few evenings to then write it all down on a piece of paper and presented it back to my manager that time. And he said, "Well, go." Do it. And
yeah,
a month later, I was training a first group of people, and
mm,
it turned out to be very effective. And there
I,
was a
yeah,
little change, but
yeah.
yeah,
I think the main difference between the more traditional organizations and the organizations of the future is in the more traditional organizations, people are more or less inside a box. So they have a job title and they do all the tasks that belong to the job title. I think that will change. I think, and I see it changing already. There's a lot of space in your organization. And I think critical people who see what could be better also need to make sure these changes will happen. So that means you sometimes you need to get out of your box. So you know what I mean. You see an organization as a set of boxes in which you just are operating within one box, or do you see uh, the bigger whole? And I think that's important. You see the bigger whole, so you have more like a helicopter view. You see where improvements need to be done and move to that area. And if you are free to do that, then you can help your organization. So I think that's also a culture thing. You need to be allowed to move to other uh, boxes, as I told you
yeah.
before.
Well, maybe that's a good jump to the one of our first more, I would say, call it theoretical slides.
Mm,
A lot of text. You don't have to read it. It's just to make it very clear that we distinguish business analysis from being a business analyst. So maybe you can give your view on that, Gert.
yeah. Well, on the left, business analysis. On the right, business analyst. There's of course a business analyst. You could say, well, that's a job title. On the left, business analysis is much broader than the things business analysts do. As we told you before, I know people are programmer who are doing analysis tasks at the moment. So if you work for for instance, a system development group, so you are developing a new system, or you are evolving your system, then sometimes your programmer may step forward and draw an activity diagram, for instance. So that will happen. Sometimes the programmer will be faster than you as an analyst. And what I'm saying here is that people with other job titles may do some business analysis tasks, and the other way around also. So sometimes as a BA, you may do some testing work. Personally, I don't do any programming work, but I'm at the moment, as I said, I am a Scrum Master. So that's part of, I think, this world that moves towards the more T-shaped kind of professional. So business analysis is the discipline, a whole range of practices you have there. And the business analyst is still a job title, because you still need people who have this job title and who have the expertise with, let's say, for instance, process modeling or systems modeling. And they may do other things as well. This slide we show you here shows you well, this is a process at a very high level in the organization. So at the top you see things you need to understand what your business does and how it does it. The second is figuring out which processes you have to create or have to improve. And when you know that, you can decide what parts of that process need to be automated. And that's, I think, where an important part of the BA comes in, is that you have to determine who the stakeholders are. That's an important part, I think, and what the needs are. So where the value lies for all the stakeholders. When you know these, you can translate them to features, system features. And of course, you won't be describing all these requirements in fully details. That will be done later. That's another stage of your project. But there also you have a part to determine what the functional specs are of the IT system. So you may have an important role in that. And even in the last step, where you decide what the technical design is. So is this waterfall thinking? Not really. All these steps are being done, I think, in this order, but the last steps may be iteratively. So the signal you see here, the arrow, which has the form of a circle, means that all these steps may be done iteratively. Underneath the process at a very high level, you see certain job titles or roles. Some are job titles, some are roles. In Holland we have the job title informatie analyst. So you see that here, information analyst is a person who is mainly focused on systems at firstly at a very high level, starting with, okay, which part of the process needs to be automated, and what does that mean for the stakeholders that use the system, and what does it mean for the features the system need to be built of. Before, or what you see above the information analyst, you see a business consultant. So we are used to people who know the business very well, people who are part of the business and know what the to be processes, the as is processes are, and the to be processes must be. And you see there's a bit of an overlap between what a business consultant does and what an information analyst does. Yeah, you could see it as a relay in athletics. So they run a bit the same in the changing part of the relay. And so the information analyst knows what to do and can do the things he or she needs to do. That's part of the changing business processes. What also here is obvious that you may also have requirement engineers. So what I'm trying to say here is that there are many job titles. There are many roles in the world, in companies. And all these job titles and roles have overlaps. And this is just a conversation diagram, you could say, een praatplaat in Dutch, which you can use in your organization to make sure who does what. And I think that's very important because it's all about communication. So this is a communication diagram. Who is doing what? And you may have the job title information analyst, and another organization has another job title. It's called a requirement engineer. Nowadays, you also have, of course, the Scrum roles, like product owner, who is very dedicated in building the right product, in building the right information system. And you have team members. And the orange bars show you some of the many job titles and roles that exist. The organization I work for used to have the RUP framework, and the RUP framework had several specialist job roles. You may also have these. What does BABOK say? The BABOK, the IIBA, uses the orange bar at the bottom, which says business analyst generic. And that means a business analyst conform the IIBA, does everything that has to do from strategy to development and even maintenance. So what we call functional beheerders in Dutch, functional managers, is part of this diagram also. So even functional managers are part of the generic job title business analyst. And everything in between, like a CEO and a functional manager, for instance. So I think it's mainly a functional thing, a functional role, and less a technical architectural. So that's more the last part of the process you see here. So what I'm trying to say here is that every company needs to think about the process at the highest level. What is the strategy? What does it mean for the processes? What does that mean for the IT systems we build? And how are we going to do that? And you need to think about who does the job. What's the job title? Which roles do we use? And how do they cooperate together? And lastly, the business analysis generic title, as the IIBA defines, is almost all of these steps. So this shows you the broadness of the discipline business analysis. Yeah, also an important slide. The business analyst is a person who forms bridges between strategic and operational. But firstly, business and IT. In my book, I'm talking about planets. So there's a planet that's called business, and there's a planet called IT, and they both speak the different language, and they cannot understand each other. But business needs IT, and IT needs business. So an IT system that has that doesn't that will not be used by the business doesn't have any value. So always you need to make a system that is being used by business. And BAs have, I think, a very important responsibility to make sure the IT people build the right system. What is the right system? That's a system that is of value for the business. So this person is sitting on a bridge, but I always say actually he walks from left to right to left to right to left to right between these two planets. So that's the bridge function the business analyst has. Make sure what the business wants, what the business needs, and go to the other side and make sure the IT people understand what the business needs. And then go back with a piece of a product. In agile world, this will only be, in the first place, it will just be an MVP, for instance. Show that to the business, let them use that, and make sure the right stakeholders are talking to you and are working with that product. So that's an important bridge. I think the strategic operational is another important bridge because as an analyst, you have to know what the strategy of your company is, and you need to translate the strategy into things that can be put into operations. For instance, an IT system. For instance, the change of a business process. I always say in training I give, strategy is about what direction do we go to? Is that South America? So that's what the CEOs tell you. We are going to South America and we are in Europe right now. I think between strategic and operational, there's tactics. And tactics tell you what how you get into South America, what the journey will look like that gets you to South America. And the operational is the daily ongoing journey on the boat, for instance. So you need to make sure things you do as an organization lead you to the point on the horizon that the CEO has. So that's the vision. The last one is also very important. There's a third bridge, and the third bridge is, I think, I was talking before about Tesla that makes products in the sense of cars, but also services, and it uses technology for that. So I think BAs need to know what the customer wants. So it's about the business itself you work for. That's important. You need to have a good mission. You need to have a good strategy and know what to do with it. But in the end, it's all about customers. So you need to know what customers need, not want, but need. And that means you need to speak to them. You need to know what they think is very important. And using technology, you can build a third bridge to provide this customer with the products and services they need. And I think Tesla has done that very, very good, in a good way, because it offers products, good products, and on top of that, it provides good services, as many other companies do as well, of course. But there's a paradigm shift, as I told you before. So BAs can help you in analyzing customer needs to build the right products and services. Yeah. Switch lenses from time to time. Yeah. I told you before, you have to look of or what analysts do. Look with two eyes. One eye on what it is like, and the other eye is what it should be like or what it could be like. But you also need to look through different lenses. Sometimes it can be a strategy lens. So you need to make sure you understand what the strategy is of the organization. But you also need to look through another lens, for instance, a process lens. When you look through a process lens, you can help your organization improve at the level of processes. So that's actually the second box you saw in the other slide. So first there's strategy, then there's processes. Processes help you to understand what your customer wants to do. So you could model, for instance, your customer process. Some organizations do that. You could model your own business process to find out what your organization does. You can do that for the as-is situation, and you can do that for the to-be situation. The third lens is the product lens. So the product lens, aka that's your information system lens, helps you in building the right product. So I think, and we'll do another BA bootcamp on that one, that product owners, for instance, are BAs. And not all BAs are product owners, but product owners certainly are BAs with the product lens. So if you put the product lens, if you look through the product lens, then you look at the system that will be developed or will be evolved to make sure you have the right product for your customers. That may be internal customers, that may be external customers. And I think you can only build the right product if that is connected, or is it fits the process you use it for, you use it in. So it's also, I think it's always about the process. That's always where it starts. What process do you have? What process do you need? And I think building the
give
right
an
product.
example.
Yeah.
So because I think this switching from lenses, so normally you get hired into a job, so like, oh, you have to, and that's often how that goes. And I really want to also tell to everybody that don't how do you say that, fall into that trap where somebody says, yeah, you're hired as a business analyst, you're going to work for this, let's say the sales department. Now go analyze the sales process. I said, okay. So in that scenario where I also get asked to look at the sales process, I said, okay, but who's the marketing responsible? I said, but what? You have to look at the sales process. I said, yes, but what do you think is the first thing that it all starts with for you as a sales director? I mean, marketing is providing you the input, so I want to know what is going in, and then I can tell you whether it's the good things that are coming in, or will I improve a process that will already start with bad input? So that's, I think, an exact example for these lenses that don't just only do that what you're asked to do, like analyze this or get requirements on that, or always look outside of your own domains to see, okay, where does information come from? Where do I push it through after when we are done with our process, to really see if it all connects, if it fits. And then I always use the term a business analyst should always go out of scope, in the sense that don't look at the situation with boundaries, because you should be the one that put the situation into the context of an organization, and a context is not a single process. Then you're having the silo vision, which is exactly, I think, one of the issues nowadays companies have. And we really need to break that. And I think that as a BA, you are on the forefront of breaking down those silos.
Exact. There's one more lens I want to talk about, and that's the people lens. More and more, I have found that in some cases, you need, I was doing that. Actually, I was doing an analysis on people. I was in a team, and the team wasn't really a team. It was a group of people. And I was wondering, why does this group of people don't form a team? So I was analyzing the persons within that group. And some people didn't have the will to communicate in a way that is needed to form a team. What I'm trying to say here is that sometimes it can be helpful to analyze the team you're part of. You don't do your work alone. You always work with other people, and sometimes there may be some problems or issues around working with other people. And I think that's an important part of business analysis as well. So sometimes it may help you to do some analysis of the people you're working with and for. And also, of course, stakeholder analysis is part of this. So stakeholder analysis is people analysis. Need to know what kind of stakeholders you have. If they are blockers, opponents, if they are critics, what kind of stakeholders do you have, and how do you handle these people? It's very important, I think.
So looking at the clock as well, I think we kind of give you now a story on at least how both Gert and I think about business analysis, and whether you agree with it or not. We were obviously open to any other stories, and maybe had different opinions. Then feel free to either put it in the chat, or continue with us on YouTube the chat as well. But we also want to give you a bit of okay, what's next to come, right? Because this is one session, it's a kickoff, it's our first, and but we want to hopefully have many more to come. So just to give you an idea of what will be some of our focus areas going forward, is that of course one of the things that is critical for BAs is to have a toolbox which they can work with, and in this case, having to work in many different scenarios, you don't always need a hammer, or you don't always need a saw, right, in every situation. So depending on the situation where you go in, the analysis you have to do, the stakeholders you work with, I mean, there are so many variables in place when talking about or when performing business analysis, that we also want to focus with our initiative to have separate sessions on scenario-based business analysis, where we will talk about tools, stakeholders, scenarios. So that's one thing that we really want to focus on in the future. Second thing, of course, it's in our name, connecting the dots. We really want to make sure that we don't only look at business analysis from one point of view, but also combining many of these areas where, how does a Scrum relate to BPM, but how would that work together in a project? How would you do that? Or how do we go from strategy to a UML diagram? I don't know. It can be any combination you can think of is a combination you can be confronted with doing your job. So also here, the question is, if you have any of those situations where you feel, hey, I'm in this world and they're working in that world, and somehow how do we bring these worlds, or how do we make these dots bring together? Then yeah, let us know, and we can maybe have a session on it.
And that helps you also with the communication of people working in a specialism. So for instance, if you know something about TOGAF, that may help you really to communicate with architects, for instance. If you know something about BISL, that may help you a lot with working together with functional managers, for instance. If you know if you know something about lean, well, certainly lean helps you with everything. I can tell you, it's a great philosophy. But if you know something about TMAP, for instance, it may help you in communicating efficiently and effectively with test people. I think that's very, very important. Clear, good communication with the goal to effectively work together, to effectively and efficiently work together with other disciplines. This diagram also says you can start, as Luc was telling before, you can start from a specialism and then move to the center, which is called business analysis. That's more the movement he has made, and you can start with a very broad um, um, set of knowledge, and then move to a specialism when that is needed in practice. And I also see this happening. So when you, and that's T-shaped. So you can have T-shape. I don't know if you have a slide on that one, Luc, as well. The
No, it's
T-shaped
not in.
things.
So we definitely
Okay,
keep
so
that
you can
for the
okay
next one.
you can become T-shaped by being a specialist. So then you are actually in the first place you have the shape of an eye, the character I, and so you have a very deep specialism in just one area. And how do you become T-shaped? When you learn more on other areas. For instance, about a programmer knows a little bit about testing and knows a little bit about architecture. So you become broader on top, and that forms the T-shape. You can also have a horizontal bar, for instance. So you are a generalist in the first place. You have a very broad skill set, but not very deep. And then you can specialize in certain areas where your company needs you to have this specialism. So you are in a team and you are working, for instance, as a BA, and you need to do some testing work. So you become more specialized in that area. So then you move from the center of this diagram to the more like the T-map part. That's things you also see in practice. So you can start as a specialist and generalize, and you can be a generalist and specialize. I
Which
think that's very interesting. So you can use this diagram for both.
which is actually a nice bridge to our final slide for today,
Yeah,
because of course you might also be interested in doing more yourself with business analysis. So there are different ways to go about it. I think Gert, you created this
yeah,
overview,
yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe to walk
This-
people through it to
yeah.
see.
Now, well, there's this is a school diagram. So you have three schools. You have the BCS school, you have the IRAP school, and you have the IIBA school. And you can certify. So you can start at the foundation level to certify yourself as a BA. What's the difference between the schools? I think the BCS and the IIBA have a lot in common. The IBA, of course, has the BABOK. Luc will tell you more on that in the next slide. So that's a school. That's the North American school. Then there's the BCS, the British Computer Society. That's the British school, and that has the Business Analysis Foundation. And then you can go from the foundation level to the advanced level to the expert level. So in the end, you can have there the international diploma in business analysis. The IRAP school is a little bit different because IRAP is about requirement engineering, and requirement engineering is a part of business analysis. So you could say you are more going yeah into specialism with just one aspect of business analysis, which is called requirement engineering, and that is very um, um, directed to requirements, so system requirements, system development. Whereas the IIBM BCS is not just about system development, it's also about process modeling, process improvement. It's about strategy. It's about benefits management, things like that. So it's much broader than the IRAP. And the IRAP is well, you can also get an expert level on that one. So that's requirement engineering, and requirement engineering is about elicitation. It's about modeling. It's about management, and you can also get an expert level on that, as I said. So that's basically the path you can walk as a BA. Start with ECBA, as Luc is doing. You can
starting point.
Yeah. So you can, when you have a lot of experience, practical experience, you can also start with the CCBA or even the CBAP. You can start here, but that you for the CCBA you need 3,750 hours of BA practice time, and for CBAP you need 7,500 BA hours. So that's people who have more experience on business analysis conform the BABOK.
Which is again a nice bridge to our introduction to the next episodes we're going to build, because this was more like an introduction session about us and what we want to achieve. But now we really want to move also with the more, let's call it really combining theory with practice, which we talked about the many different schools. As we are both Gert CBAP, I'm ECBA certified, we really now want to take it to the next step. And for everybody who doesn't know the BABOK is the business analysis body of knowledge according to the IIBA, which is basically a global recognized standard when it comes down to business analysis. So what kind of tasks do you perform? What kind of tools do you use? So it's really from a practical point of view. But it's quite a tough book. I don't know from the top of my head, but I see
I have them here.
Looking.
I can show you.
470 pages, so it's quite a rough one to get through. So
A4 size. A4 size.
Oh. Yes, A4 size. So we want to basically get that thing unpuzzled for you and help you with, well, basically what we're going to do is we're going to host 10 sessions, which are according to the chapters of the BABOK, and take you through it on a practical but also easy to digest manner, and hopefully inspire you to also maybe move forward with maybe either a next step to go into doing a formal training, or maybe you already feel confident and want to go for a certification. So if you want to be informed about when these series will go live, so we will communicate on LinkedIn as we did for today's series. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we will announce things there as well. I put the link in the chat for everybody who wants to follow. That's basically, I will not describe too much about IIBA BABOK, but that will be the next session we will have to also give you a bit of understanding of why the IIBA did it and why the BABOK might be a very good tool in itself, or friend for any BA that is working in the field. And so we have identified 10 sessions, which will basically go through the whole book. And as soon as we have the dates for these sessions, we will communicate on it. And that's it.